right, guys. Listen, I told Mark this. I got a lot of respect for this. The Maryland program and this Maryland team. Obviously, they lost, Smith and Cowan and, some really good players. But you look at what they've done against some really quality opponents. One at Minnesota, one at Wisconsin, one at Illinois. They just have really had some impressive wins. So I think we were well aware of that. We're also well aware of the fact that we've not won here before. So, players win games. I thought our guys had a good focus and mindset about them. And, I was not terribly pleased with a couple early stretches. But outside of that, I thought it was a really quality performance. And now we've got to, as Dwayne said, turn the page to a really good Indiana team.
All right, we'll start it off with questions from Brendan Gulick with Patrick Murphy on deck. Brendan?
Coach, thanks for spending some time with us. Congrats on a big win. If we'd have told you before the game that you'd have had 2 field goals from E.J. Liddell and that Justice wouldn't have scored a single point tonight, and you'd have been in a game on the road that by the end you certainly, at least at a couple points, at a comfortable margin. How much does that just continue to tell you about the depth that this team has, where you feel like maybe guys get in foul trouble or have off nights and you feel like you can lean on other players?
Yeah, Brendan, I think that's been the hallmark of this team is the multiple guys. And listen, EJ Liddell is such a matchup issue. He's such a good player that teams are going to give him a lot of attention. And the beneficiaries of that were some other guys here tonight. And, I think for the most part, our guys were able to take advantage of it. And then I think EJ, missed a couple easy ones that he normally makes. Probably some frustration got to him a little bit. But I think in general, a guy like him who's as talented and as good as he is, he'll respond and come back and play well.
I realize it's a long stretch. I'm not going to ask you about the entire stretch, but you held Maryland to 1 basket from the floor over what amounted to almost 13 minutes between the first and second half. Is there anything about that stretch where you felt like you were really playing good defense, or was it a product of them just not firing offensively?
Well, I thought, Brendan, that we played with more force, had better wall-ups. I also thought and we had better communication. I also thought that they missed some clean and open looks. So I think it was a combination of both. I think they missed some shots that they're normally going to make, but we did play with more force.
All right, next up is Patrick Murphy with Adam Jardy on deck. Patrick?
Chris, I think it was after one of the Purdue games I asked you about falling in love with the 3 a little bit too much, and you said you thought you guys did. Since then, you guys have really used the 3 to your benefit, and especially early tonight when that was all you were getting. How have you seen that improve from your team, and why has it become a strength when maybe early in the year it wasn't as big of a thing for you guys offensively?
Yeah, I thought we did a better job not falling entirely in love with it after we went 8 of 16 in the first half. I thought we probably took a few too many of them, but some of that is that's what we have out on the floor is guys that do that, a number of them. But I thought we were more intentional about getting to the paint. And we have talked a lot about that Purdue game. Now, some of it is Purdue plays defense differently than these guys do. And if we were to play Purdue again, I think our 3 attempts would still be relatively high, as long as they were good ones. But I also would hope that we would be a little bit more intentional and play with a little bit more force. But some of that is dictated by how teams are playing you. And I thought we did a better job in the second half about being, getting the ball where we needed to. And
is that something that builds confidence-wise? I mean, when guys that can hit them start hitting them in games consistently, does that just raise the confidence in those guys to knock them down?
Yeah, I mean, we have guys with high-level confidence right now. Really high-level confidence. Really a number of guys shooting the ball, and just in general. Justin, Kyle, Dwayne. It was good to see CJ knock down that open one tonight because he's more than capable of doing that. So, EJ has been shooting it very well, particularly in league play. Justice has shot it well. And then Seth gave us a huge lift, making a couple when we were struggling. He gave us a huge lift, making a couple threes.
Next up is Adam Jardy with Dan Hope on deck. Adam?
Chris, there were two interesting technical fouls in this game. Can you tell us what the officials relayed to you as far as what happened on each of those?
Justin, they said he said something to the bench. Justin admitted to it. You can't talk to another team's bench. He was just excited for his teammate. And then I believe there was a reaction to on their part to a call. Or I'm not sure if Morcell was reacting to a call or not. I really don't know the specifics. I tend to not ask what another team's technical is for, but I will ask when we get one.
And then you talked about kind of getting into your team in the first half there and trying to get more force out of them. How as this season has gone on, have you learned as far, like, I guess, pushing that button when you know, like, you can really get into them and try to get more than they're giving you at that moment? How has that evolved with this team?
I mean, sometimes, people think it's some type of a motivational ploy to, get on your team in a timeout. Reality is you're just angry. You're just venting. You're angry. I think our guys know I don't do that necessarily on purpose or as any type of motivational ploy. I did not think we were playing with the amount of force or effort that we needed to. Now, Maryland had something to do with that. I thought they were doing some really good things. And I did a poor job making a call early in the game that gave them an open three. But I just did not think we were playing with the necessary force or physicality. They were walling us up and we were not finishing. And so we addressed that, or I addressed it. And listen, we got a great group. It's super coachable. They're a phenomenal group to coach. They want to win. They knew we hadn't won here before, and they responded.
All right, next up is Dan Hope with Phil Harrison on deck. Dan?
Hey, Chris, in a year like this where you guys, have had to deal with the challenges of COVID and so many different things than usual, how much do you think it's benefiting you guys that you have a lot of veterans on this team and a lot of guys who've been playing together for 2, 3, 4 years?
I think that helps, Dan. We've been trying to build towards that. Everybody knows that. I've mentioned the importance of building with guys that have been a part of our program, that understand how we do things, where there's some consistency and, this narrative in the off season that, in terms of our roster just wasn't accurate, because when you looked at it, we had a lot of guys that were returning that we thought were going to play valuable roles. But I think, Dan, to your point, what helps is a core of returning guys who have an understanding of how we do things and have embraced that. They got to embrace it. And then on top of that, the addition of just some really good kids, good players, good people. So in a year when, you're being challenged in a lot of ways, just the quality of your team and their ability to focus, the maturity of your team, it's essential. And we've got a mature team. I've said that from day one. We're not. It's not like we're the oldest team or one of the oldest teams in college basketball. But and I've always said this. Age and maturity don't always equate. I'm a great example of that. But in this group here, we've got a mature group, and that maturity has allowed us, I think, to be able to play home and on the road, or just be able to play in different environments, I should say, and have the necessary understanding of how to prepare to play your best.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, next up is Phil Harrison with Bruce Hooley on deck. Phil?
Hey, Chris, along those same lines, I mean, you've rattled off quite a few pretty good wins here already this year, and I know it's hard to appreciate, what you've done at this point. You don't ever want to rest on what you've done so far. But with all the uncertainties of this year with COVID and some new faces on the team, is this, are you a little surprised about where this team is at? Is it a little bit ahead of schedule than what even you thought coming into the year?
Sure. I don't think you ever anticipate in this league, winning whatever it's been, 6 out of 7, 7 out of 8, 8 out of 9, whatever it's been. I don't think you ever, to your point, anticipate that. And on top of that, I thought we had a bit of a bumpy non-conference season for those of you that saw us early, but a clean one nonetheless. But it was bumpy. Yeah, I don't think I don't mind admitting and saying, I felt optimistic about this group, but I'm not also not going to ignore the fact that there is some surprise in terms of I think we've gelled in a quicker way. We've also seen guys, really good players, emerge into really good players, but you don't always know if that's going to happen. You just don't know what a team's collective spirit is going to be from year to year. We're still writing our story, so I'm hesitant to say too much. But yeah, felt really good, and really good.
And what would you say is the main reason why this team has gotten so much better so quickly in the face of all that?
I think guys individually have gotten players. We've seen, we've got some really good players that have stepped up at different times. And we talk about how phenomenal was Kyle Young tonight. Justice has had great moments. C.J. Walker, and then our two leading scorers, Dwayne and E.J. And I think in Zed's coming off the bench, and Gene and Musa and Seth, and E.J.'s turned in. So I think we've had a collection of. We've got a really balanced group, and then I think to Dwayne's point, their buy-in has been phenomenal. It's been phenomenal. And it's hard to quantify what that means for a team, right? It's just hard to. And if we continue to have that, we'll see what story we can write.
Thanks, Coach.
We got a few more hands up here. We'll try to get to everyone if we can just limit it to one question.
Is that the yellow thing that's up there on every screen? The yellow thing, is that a hand?
Yep.
All right, let's rattle them off here. I'll start.
We're going to try to get to one question each. We can get them moving. Bruce Hooley's up next with Stephen Means on deck. Bruce?
Chris, when you have to coach against someone who shoots the percentage Justin shoots from three-point range, what does it force you to do that complicates game planning for a team defensively?
It's just you're always aware of him, Bruce. Always aware of him when he's that proficient. And we've coached against a few that are in the rhythm that he's in, but he's been in that rhythm for the better part of a month and a half, 2 months. You're just always aware of him. So it stretches your defense, and it makes your attention to detail have to be so high level. And our guys have done a good job finding him. I thought C.J. Walker's play on the break to him was terrific.
All right, next up, Stephen Means with Adam Jardy on deck. Stephen?
Just kind of to that point, I mean, the shooting, we've seen that before with Justin. He's had games the last 2 years where he just kind of went off with that. But the problem has never been that. It's been on the defensive end, which it's been hard maybe to keep him on the floor because that doesn't necessarily match what he's doing offensively. Can you just talk about how he's improved to the point that, I mean, he's never going to be an elite lockdown defender. Right. He's to the point where you're able to take advantage of what he can do offensively now.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't love the whole, he struggles defensively, but coach, remember, threes are more than twos. I don't buy that. I can't stand it when I hear that because it's not like I'm trying to give up twos either. I think what he's done is his attention to detail defensively has been good. So he's been a talker, a communicator, scouting report. He's have a high level attention to detail. He did not have that his first year. He did not have that his first year and a half. He just didn't. I think he's understood that, hey, if he's going to be a team defender, if he's going to be a good defender, a defender that can be out on the floor for consistent minutes, he has to be an elite team defender. And that's what he's got to do. It's what he's got to continue to do.
All right, next up is Adam Jardy with Colin Hass-Hill on deck. Adam?
Chris, you mentioned letting these guys know that they had never won here before, and Kyle mentioned that a little bit. to see him continue to battle through everything he's kind of gone through physically, and to have a night like he had for you tonight, it seemed like he really, whenever you needed a rebound, he was there. When you needed a bucket in the paint, he was able to get it for you. What sort of impact did he have on this game?
He was phenomenal. I thought he led the way. In that area. I thought, winning this game was important to him because we hadn't won. And I texted him that last night because Ryan Peden had sent it to me, and the scores of our games here. And obviously we haven't played a ton of games, and Maryland's got a great program. So they played really well. They play really well here. Obviously it's so much different given the neutral environment. But, I sent him that text. I think, that resonated with those guys in terms of wanting to be the first team to win here.
All right, next up is Colin Hass-Hill with Patrick Murphy on deck. Colin?
Chris, you talked about how Kyle is not always practicing. How much is he actually practicing? And also, is it hard sometimes not to take for granted someone that's not always 100%, maybe not always practicing, but every time that you're in a game, he brings it every single time, no matter what.
Yeah. No, he's a really good player and underrated in a lot of ways, I think. But he's a fourth-year kid who was – right? Remember, Colin, he was second to Caleb in Mr. Basketball. He was a good player coming out of high school. It's just grown, and his game has grown. But, it was hard. He could not play much, or he could not practice after going against Garza like he did. So he needed 2 full days off because his legs were too sore. So he was only able to go 1 day before we played.
All right, last 2 questions will be from Patrick Murphy and Tony German. Patrick, go ahead.
Another Kyle question, but his value when you don't have to run a play for him on the offensive end. We see the putback dunks and stuff, but from a coaching perspective, knowing you have a guy who can do that doesn't need things drawn up for him, how much does that help in offense?
Well, yeah, he's done that his whole career, and we've drawn a few more things up for him and run a few more things for him now than what we did before. But he just plays. He just plays. Ohio State winning, it matters to all of our guys. But when you have a fourth-year guy, it really matters to a kid like that. And on top of that, his energy is tremendous.
So Tony, take us home.
Chris, one last thing on Kyle Young. You mentioned the team's collective spirit. How much has it helped that every single guy on this team gets to see Kyle Young, like their entire career, all they've seen is Kyle Young out there? Yeah,
no, I think he's a great example. And we miss him when he can't practice, honestly. It affects our practice in a lot of ways. We don't feel it as much, because he's an older kid who does bring energy. But I think, I'm just really happy for him too that his game has continued to grow, because it really has. He's taken a giant leap. We talk about EJ being improved, and he is, and he's been tremendous, and Dwayne and Justin, but Kyle Young, throw him in there. His growth has been really, really important for us. And, we've got to continue to do that. Obviously, we got a big-time challenge here in a few days against the Indiana front line that I think is as good as anybody in the league. We'll talk more about that. Is it almost midnight? Holy smokes. All right, guys. Anything else?
That's all. Thanks, Coach.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.